Hi everyone. My name is Eric Nunez. You guys might recognize me from the last week's Techie Thursdays, and this week we're doing something a little different. We do have John from 888 VoIP. They are one of our partners. They're one of our vendors. They supply us with the majority, if not almost all of our hardware, where we pretty much purchase phones from, and we lease phones to our customers and sell purchase phones from 888 VoIP. So John, it's again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us for this Techie Thursday, and yeah, we're really looking forward to having open-ended questions and pretty much discussing the phones and everything that 888 VoIP does for NextG, and pretty much a lot of the models that we offer as well.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate you adding me to the forum, and I look forward to hearing the questions that the folks out there have.
Absolutely. Let me see something here. Let me get this question. Here we go. We got our questions popped up. Let me take a look. So you guys do offer different models of phones. I know that you guys don't just offer us one type of phone. For the most part, we do have three different main vendors, I guess you could say, or manufacturers that we like to go with when we're purchasing phones from 888 VoIP. We have Yelink, we have Grandstream, and we also have Polycom phones.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and from what I can see here, it looks like Carlos is just joining us. We're going to give him a second here to join on up. But in the meantime, let's see if we have any questions yet. Not yet. So we will be taking questions pretty much the whole way throughout. So if anybody does have a question, feel free to just pop it up in the chat, and we'll love to address those. So as of recently, I see that Polycom has, I guess you could say, released a new model of Polycom phones. Those phones look a lot different than their older models, like the VVX 400 and the VVX 300, even the VVX 500. Can you tell us a little, just a little about the new Polycom models that are now, we're partnered up with you guys, and those new Polycom models that you guys are offering?
Yeah, sure. So this is a new line that Polycom has recently added to their portfolio. Their existing phones are still available, and they are transitioning over to the newer models. So the newer models are the VVX 150, the VVX 250, VVX 350, VVX 450. And what's a little bit unique about these are they are eligible and able to be managed remotely through Polycom's PDMS service, which is a portal as a Polycom partner that you have access to do remote management. If you are interested in some more details, we can provide that through you guys, and you can provide that to the partners out there today.
Oh, that would be very cool. Very cool. I'd love to see some of that also.
Yeah, I also have a quick chart if you'd like me to pop that up, and I can show you the different models.
Oh man, that would be great. That would be great. Let me take a look here. Let me see if there's a way for me to set that up. Oh, we have a question here from Larry. Does the next firmware in the Polycom phones add the noise cancellation to older phones? That's a great question.
So does the next firmware in the Polycom phones add the noise cancellation to the older phones? So there is a version, I think .58, that is available for the older models that is eligible for the PDMS service. Whether that adds the noise cancellation, I'm assuming you're looking for more of like the acoustic fence technology. I can verify that and get back to you.
Okay, that's great. So one of the more common questions I do get, do you have any phones that I don't need to have any Ethernet connection for whatsoever? I don't have any Ethernet drops. And for a customer who's looking for Polycom phones that, let's say, work 100% on Wi-Fi, are there any solutions that you guys offer for that?
So there are several different solutions, and it depends on what works best for the customer. There are different phones from the different manufacturers that support Wi-Fi. They are typically some of the higher models. So, for instance, with Yealink, a T46S or a T48S, even I think that the T42S support a Wi-Fi dongle that would allow the desk phone to work off the Wi-Fi network. However, keep in mind that you'll always need some sort of power source. So you will need a power supply with that model in order to power up the phone. But yes, there are different options for different manufacturers to support the IP phone via Wi-Fi.
Okay, great. That's actually really great to know. So it's not just limiting yourself to one brand. There are different manufacturers that offer phones that can connect via Wi-Fi.
That is correct.
That's great. That's great. All right, so what we have pulled up here on the screen, we have the latest. We had the latest Polycom charts. It's okay. I do have some other questions regarding other brands. So
Sure.
recently, it does look like we just recently have released the new Yealink CP conference room phone, right? And it looks extremely modern, extremely sleek compared to Polycom's IP5000. There's a difference in price and everything. So can you give me some details on the Yealink CP960 and pretty much the new specifications and why somebody would want to go with a CP960 as opposed to maybe a different model of conference room phones?
Sure, absolutely. Let me just pull up this chart. I do have this available as well.
I know we have the CP920 and the CP960, and I know that just pretty much overall differences on both models. That would be great to kind of go over.
Yeah, sure. So these are the new models of the Yealink conference phones. So the CP960 supports a wireless mic. So if you have a larger conference room that would require maybe some extended mics because it's a larger room, the CP960 would be the model that you would want to go with. That's the only model right now that supports the wireless mics. You can buy the CP960 without wireless mics. It's a little less expensive, so you have that option either way. CP960 is also something that works with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Let me just pull up the specs here. So you can add if let's say you have a call that you've taken on a cellular phone and you walk into your conference room, you have the capability of putting that phone onto the conference phone using Bluetooth.
Wow! So a cell phone, not even having to be on the same network, right? As that conference room phone, you can still manage to get that call onto the conference room phone via Bluetooth.
Yes. Yep. So that supports Bluetooth. It supports built-in Wi-Fi as well for the CP960.
Oh, built-in Wi-Fi. So there's not even a need for an Ethernet drop. You just need to have a power connection and then connect via Wi-Fi.
Correct. And then as you move down, the CP920 is a smaller conference room phone for maybe more of the budget-conscious customers. And that unit itself does not support extended mics.
Okay, so that's more for like a smaller conference room. Something more entry level. Correct.
And then once you get down to your CP930, which is a brand new model that has just come out, it is a decked conference room phone. So if a customer is looking for something that is completely wireless, this model is something that would be useful because it's a decked conference room phone. So as you can see, there's a base station with this model. and the unit is actually battery powered. So what you would do is you'd have maybe a credenza or a shelf in the corner of your conference room phone. When you walk in, you'd grab your conference room phone and you'd set it in the middle of the table. It's battery powered, so it's running off of the decked base station.
Hey,
So that's
John,
another option.
John, that's a great option. You know, we have a customer that has he's a lawyer, and they have a huge granite table. They didn't want to, drill and run cables through it. So is this a good option for that?
Yes, that would be a perfect option for that. As long as they have a place in the corner or, somewhere in that room that they could put their base station.
Oh, so you're telling me that this thing is going to run on batteries, and then I just simply move it when I leave the office and put it to charge, and then come back the next day and it's ready to go?
Yes, correct.
That's awesome. It's pretty cool. Cool features. And that brand again is which one?
This is a Yealink. This is a Yealink CP930W.
Oh, nice.
This was just released. So there are only a few models out there today. Our regular stock is on its way here, so it'll be available for general purchase in the next couple weeks.
I would really like to hear from the audience if there's any interest in such a conference phone, because this is something that I think people are getting used to. Wireless kind of thing without a wire, meaning not only a wireless speaking on a speakerphone, but actually having the ability to move this thing around, and perhaps if one conference room is being used, you can move it to a desk and then use it again. This is a great application. If anybody out there listening to us, if you have a special need, we would be really interested in hearing from you guys. So feel free to ask or comment on this type of phone. Excellent. And John, after that, what else do you recommend as a conference phone, in terms of a big conference table that is otherwise totally wired and there's no problem with it, but you would require a reach, right? Because it's basically one of them lawyers again that have a huge 24, chair kind of conference room. And sometimes people would say, hey, speak up, you're too far away from the speakerphone. And suddenly you see this poor guy leaning towards the center of the room talking to the spider, right? If you know what I mean.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So in those applications, the CP960 with wireless mics is a perfect option, as well as the Polycom Trio 8800 that supports some additional mics as well. Very similar look to it, but those are perfect conference room phone options.
Excellent. So moving along, we spoke about Polycoms, we've mentioned about Yealinks. I wanted to add something out there to some of you guys listening to our Techie Thursdays webinar here. As you might know, Polycom has come up with a very branded name that people get used to, and sometimes you also hear about Yealink and Grandstream. And I hear that people want to buy from a known manufacturer and an unknown manufacturer, especially sometimes people not being very happy about purchasing a phone that is manufactured in China, and I understand those reasons. Polycom is manufactured in China, but that's not what I wanted to say. Yealink, for a fact, is a huge public company. They have their own products, and I know that most people, the perception about the Chinese products is that they're kind of buying, or copying, IP. When I say IP, I'm talking about intellectual property here. But with Yealink and Grandstream, they're not the case. John, what's your take on talking about Yealink and their vertical in terms of what they do, and then compared to Grandstream, which reaches out a little bit further and has IP access for remote locations and also video surveillance? What's your take on those two brands in terms of not which one is better than the other, but if a customer would require surveillance, maybe let's talk about a little bit of Grandstream, right? And on the other hand, if somebody requires a little bit more of I would say an executive phone on the Yealink side, what's your take on those two brands?
Yeah, sure. So, the biggest thing is making sure that the customer meets all of their requirements, right? So you have to kind of put an agnostic hat on and drill down to find out exactly what the customer requires. As far as the different brands, Yealink is pretty agnostic as far as an IP phone. They make IP phones, and that's it. They don't have any voice platforms. They don't have any other products out there today. Grandstream, on the other hand, has IP phones. They also do IP surveillance. They have IP video door phones as well. So their brand is a little bit further developed, and they have a couple more products. So it all varies depending on what the customer is looking for. Maybe the customer wants to stay with one manufacturer. So they need some surveillance cameras. They'd like an IP video door phone. They're looking for some access control. They want the same phone, same look, same feel. That's where Grandstream maybe has an edge in certain scenarios. But for the most part, from an IP phone manufacturer, Yealink has done a really good job of developing their product. They are actually the #1 phone in the world now from an IP phone perspective, an open standard IP phone perspective. They're #2 here in the United States, and they're closely creeping up and could overtake the #1 IP phone out there today. So it all varies depending on what the customer is looking for. Each one has similar products that can be customized and meet the customer requirements for whatever your customer needs.
Right, exactly. And agnostic, I truly love that word. It has its origin and meaning. It's different, but it applies perfectly here. And I love that word because in my case, when I'm asked about, and this is something that, we usually say, we don't sell IP phones, customers buy them, because in the end, this is not a smartphone. And sometimes I felt that a desk phone, an IP phone that has a big screen that's running an Android, tablet-like screen that you can install applications in such as Skype and do video conferencing, I will go, yeah, right, but I already have my smartphone and I have my computer. So sometimes I think that the brands take a little bit too far and confuse our customers, and our channel partners, and hence why we're here having this conversation. That sometimes, agnostic not only applies to the brand, but within the brand, a phone with 4 buttons or 8 buttons or a larger screen, in the end, it's a phone. It depends on the necessity of whoever's using it. Obviously, a receptionist phone needs to have the BLFs. You would like to have a larger phone with perhaps a big screen so you can manage more incoming calls and then add sidecars and so on. Whereas somebody with a tablet-like phone might be a separate application, somebody that has an app that they built for Android and they want to perhaps use it as a kiosk. What I mean by that, we had a hotel that was interested in having the Grandstream Android phone so that you can, when I mean by kiosk, is when you force a tablet, being iOS or be it Android, to run one and only one application. So this hotel wanted to have their app running, and the guest was not able to obviously change or use any other thing. So for that application, that's when I would say, hey, that's great that Grandstream has a sort of a Android tablet phone. It's got a handset, but it's got that big screen. When on the other hand, a normal user like myself on my desk, I don't see the value in installing applications that I otherwise have on my tablet, on my smartphone, or my computer, right? So that would be my take. And I just wanted to mention that because I think that a lot of people usually get confused in terms of why is there an Android desk phone and why is, maybe Yealink just coming out with one of those. So what do you think about that?
I agree with some of those. I agree with all of those points. As far as an Android phone with a 7-inch touchscreen, I think that you're going to probably see. I don't want to speak out of turn for the manufacturer. I don't know if Yealink in particular would open that up to just Android. I know that there are some hotel applications that are starting to move that way. I'm not sure if that is on Yealink's roadmap or not. And I think there's concern that, if you open it up to just an Android operating system, that you open it up to the Google Play Store, and then, folks are playing Angry Birds instead of actually doing work. In certain applications, hotel especially, hospitality, there may be some opportunity there. It's still a little early to figure out which manufacturers are going to excel at that.
Right. So, Eric, I've got a question for you. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So, Eric, you're customer facing 24/7, probably, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably you don't like them, but that's how it is.
I love all my customers.
What is the number one concern when you pick up the phone and a customer has some sort of frustration level with a given IP phone? What would you say is the thing that you would tell manufacturers, hey guys, you should cater this. You should do this way, because customers complain all the time. What would you say is the one thing that you can identify?
One thing, man, if I had to pick just one, to be honest with you, I think it's just the interface. You want to make it as user-friendly as possible. I have some customers where they just enjoy being able to see on the bottom of the screen the button transfer, or not having to click more, and sometimes that's a limitation of the size of the screen that they have, right? Because some entry-level phones, the screen is a lot smaller than, let's say, an executive level phone. But I'd say just making the user interface as simple and easy to use as possible. Maybe they don't want to have to press the transfer button, the actual physical button. They want to be able to go through the screen. So it's just a matter of being flexible and being as user-friendly as possible.
Exactly. So coming out, there's customers that we're installing that are coming out of old Nortel systems. In the end, they have a phone, and most of them have a regular phone where they need to conference in, they need to transfer, like you mentioned, and they need to hold. So I agree. The phones, although IP phones and with added functionality, I think that the aesthetics should be a little bit more like the old phones. So the people, the migration into the IP phone system, it's not that hard. And so, I remember the Nortel buttons had a huge hold in orange and then a transfer in green and so on and so forth. So maybe the look and feel would cater for that. So, John, having said that, and before we go, what would you say, give me at least two options that are, in your opinion, from VoIP and such a great company that we buy IP phones from, give me two phones, or three, if you want to mention all three brands that are basically brought up today, that would be the ones that you think are the most end user friendly for what Eric just mentioned about, customers.
Yeah. That these are great points. And, obviously coming from like the Nortel world or some of these other proprietary IP PBXs, a lot of those had 16 buttons right on the side, or 24 buttons, right there, ready to go. Where the IP phones are a little different, right? That they use soft screens. So they have, a soft transfer button, somewhere on the phone. But it's all about educating the customer and showing them how to do it. Even though, when you go to the customer site, the receptionist has, a certain key that she hits every day, or he or she hits every day, and they want that to emulate exactly what their old system did. So typically we have to do a lot of that on the back end, right? And we have to make that key work properly. Now, in some cases that doesn't happen, but we can get as close as we can. So from a phone perspective, what we see traditionally is, from a Yealink perspective, a T46S with the physical keys is probably the top seller. If we have a requirement that has a lot of expansion keys that they need, or BLFs, that supports the expansion module as well. So the T46 with the expansion module, depending on the number of keys, would be a top seller for the Yealink perspective. From Grandstream, I would say the 2170 is probably one of our top models. That's probably the most popular at this moment.
Yes.
Some of the newer models, like the 1760W with the wireless option, that is a popular model as well. But the 2170 is probably the most popular Grandstream model. And then from a Polycom perspective, that VBX 450 has been a very popular model, and is really flying off the shelf as well. So I would say those three models would be the most popular models.
Understood. Excellent. So I think our listeners here and viewers who are looking at our screen sharing have a good take on. So before we run out of time, first of all, I would like to thank John Zader from 888 VoIP. John is basically our go-to guy right there at 888 VoIP every time we have a question, because believe it or not, we as a company have questions about IP phones, have questions about what's the best deployment, and other questions that are basically just for the sake of sorting out our customers' requests. We always go to John. 888 VoIP, one of our preferred partners here at Nexergy. Thank you so much for being with us today. I think that this brings a lot of tranquility to our channel partners and customers out there that were a little bit confused about what, IP phones, hence the IP phone dilemma that we wanted to bring up today. And again, obviously, thank you, Eric, our customer-facing tech support techie guy here, who's basically out there in the real world, leading without you all, channel partners and customers, with all those questions. And we're more than happy, and I'm pretty sure, speaking for him, very happy to assist you in any further questions that you might have. You can always call us here at 1-866-NEXERGY1 with any questions or requests. If you want to send us an email at support@nexergy.com. If you want to reach out John for any specific questions in terms of direct feedback from a VAR and IP phone vendor, we will be more than happy to share that information. John, thank you very much for being here. Eric, thank you very, very much for being here. Oliver, thank you very much for organizing this, and thank you very much for our audience. We're here to help, and see you next Thursday at Techie Thursdays here at Nexergy. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you, Carlos.
All right. Thanks so much, John.